Hello and welcome. Before we begin, I want you to do one small thing for me. Wherever you are right now, in your car, in your kitchen, lying in bed at 11 at night with your phone in your hand, just let your shoulders drop, unclench your jaw, and take one slow breath, all the way in and all the way out. There. You've already begun. I want to talk today about something almost every one of us is carrying, and very few of us talk about honestly. That low, humming unease that never quite switches off. The tightness in the chest for no reason you can name. Waking at 3 in the morning with your heart racing about a conversation that hasn't happened yet. Checking your phone 12 times while nothing is actually wrong. Anxiety. And I want to share with you what a 5,000-year-old conversation has to say about it, because the Bhagavad Gita opens with something remarkable. It opens with a panic attack. Think about that. The greatest spiritual text of India does not begin with a serene sage on a mountaintop. It begins with a man falling apart. Arjuna, the finest warrior of his age, standing in his chariot, describes his own body giving way, his limbs going weak, his mouth going dry, his skin trembling, his hair standing on end, his bow slipping from his hands. He says he cannot stand up. He says he cannot think straight. Any doctor today would recognize that description immediately. That is a nervous system in full alarm. And here is what I find so moving about it. Krishna does not say, pull yourself together. He does not say a warrior shouldn't feel this. He lets Arjuna speak. He lets him pour out every fear and every doubt, all the way to the end. And only then does he begin to teach. So if you are anxious today, understand this. You are in extremely good company. The Gita was spoken to someone in exactly your state. It is not a book for people who have it all figured out. It is a book for people whose hands are shaking.
Before we go further, one honest word. What we'll explore today is wisdom, and wisdom is powerful. But if your anxiety is severe, if it's stopping you from working or sleeping or leaving the house, if it comes with panic attacks or thoughts of harming yourself, then please also speak to a doctor or a therapist. There is no contradiction here. The Gita never asks you to refuse help. Arjuna himself got help by asking someone wiser than him. Take the medicine and the wisdom, both. You deserve every kind of support there is. Now, let us begin. Let me start with a question. Have you ever noticed that you are almost never anxious about the present moment? Sit with that for a second. Right now, in this exact instant, very little is wrong. You are breathing. You are safe enough to be listening to this. The anxiety is not about now. It's about a moment that hasn't arrived yet. The result, the outcome, the verdict. The Gita puts its finger precisely on this. In its most famous line, Krishna tells Arjuna, "You have a right to your actions, but never to the fruits of your actions." Now, most people hear that and think it means don't care about results. It doesn't. Read it again. It's not a moral instruction. It's a description of reality. You genuinely do have power over your effort, your preparation, your honesty, your attention, your kindness. And you genuinely do not have power over the outcome, because the outcome depends on 1,000 things outside you. Other people's decisions, timing, economies, luck, the health of a stranger, the mood of someone in a room you'll never enter. Anxiety, then, is what happens when we try to control something we were never given control over. It's the mind pouring enormous energy into a lever that isn't connected to anything. And it exhausts us, not because we're weak, but because we're pulling at something that will not move. Let me show you what this looks like in an ordinary life. The story of the 3 a.m. spreadsheet. There's a woman I want you to imagine. Let's call her Karen. She's 44. She manages projects at a mid-sized company in Ohio. She has 2 teenagers and a mortgage and a dog that needs walking. Karen does her job well, genuinely well. But at 3 in the morning, almost every night, she wakes up with her heart pounding. And in that dark hour, her mind runs the same film. The quarterly review. What if the numbers come in short? What if her manager has already decided? What if there are layoffs and it's her? And then the mortgage, and then the kids' college, and then by 4 a.m., in her mind, she has lost her house. Now here's what's extraordinary. By 7 a.m., she's up, she's made the coffee, she's driving to work, and she does a perfectly competent day. The disaster she lived through at 4 in the morning never happened. It has never once happened in 20 years of these nights. But she paid for it anyway. She paid in sleep, in stomach acid, in patience with her children, in years of her life. She has been charged, again and again, for a catastrophe that was never delivered. The Gita would say something very gentle to Karen. You were never holding the review. You were only ever holding your work. And you did your work. That's the first shift. Not stop caring, but care about the part that is actually in your hands and set down the part that never was. And notice, you'll find you have more energy for the work itself the moment you stop wrestling with the verdict. Now let's look at the mechanics, because the Gita describes the anxiety loop with a precision that honestly startles me every time I read it. Krishna traces a chain. He says, by dwelling repeatedly on something, attachment to it is born. From attachment comes craving. When craving is thwarted, anger arises. From anger comes confusion. From confusion, the loss of clear memory and judgment. And when judgment is lost, a person collapses. Read that as a description of a bad night, and it maps perfectly. You dwell on one thought, one email, one comment, one symptom. Dwelling makes it grow. Now you need certainty about it. Certainty doesn't come, so agitation rises. Agitation clouds your thinking. With clouded thinking, you lose all sense of proportion. You can no longer tell a small thing from a catastrophe. And by then, you're not solving anything. You're just spinning. Here's the crucial insight in this chain. The problem was never the first thought. Thoughts arrive on their own. You can't stop that, and you don't need to. The problem is the dwelling, the second and 11th and 100th return to the same thought. Anxiety is not having a worrying thought. Anxiety is rehearsing it. And this is enormously good news, because it tells you exactly where to intervene. Not at the thought, you'll lose that fight. At the rehearsal. Krishna gives Arjuna the method for exactly this, and it's so simple it almost sounds like nothing. He says, wherever the restless mind wanders off to, gently bring it back and settle it again. Notice the word, gently. Not seize the mind, not punish yourself for wandering. Gently, again and again. The way a mother walking through a market takes her small child's hand and draws him back, the 15th time as patiently as the first, without irritation, without a lecture. This is the whole practice,
And it's the opposite of what most anxious people do. Most of us try to win. We argue with the fear. We demand that our mind stop. And we add a second layer of suffering. Anxiety about being anxious. Shame about not coping. Krishna's instruction removes that entirely. You are not required to defeat your mind. You are only required to keep bringing it home. Let me tell you about a habit that shows how deep this goes.
The story of the elephant and the rope. A traveler once walked through a village and stopped, puzzled at what he saw. A group of enormous elephants stood at the edge of the camp. Massive animals, easily strong enough to uproot a tree. And each one was held by nothing but a thin rope, tied round one ankle to a small wooden stake in the ground. Any one of them could have snapped that rope without noticing. None of them tried. He found the keeper and asked, "How is it that these huge animals stand here, held by a piece of string?" The keeper said, "Because of when we tied it. When they were very small calves, that same rope was genuinely strong enough to hold them. They pulled and they could not get free. And they learned at that age that pulling is pointless. They still believe it. They have never tested the rope again as adults." The elephants were not held by the rope. They were held by an old conclusion. And I want you to sit with that for a moment, because so much anxiety works exactly this way. Somewhere back in your life, something happened and you drew a conclusion. I'm not safe. Money will always be scarce. If I stop worrying, something terrible will happen. If I'm not perfect, I'll be abandoned. That conclusion may have been reasonable when you were small, and the rope really was stronger than you. But you are not small now, and you have probably never once tested the rope. This is why Krishna says something so bracing in the 6th chapter, that a person is his own best friend and his own worst enemy. He says you must lift yourself up by your own self and never let yourself sink down. He is not blaming you. He is empowering you. He is saying the tether holding you is inside your own mind, which means the untying is also in your hands. Part 3. When the fear is a rope, not a snake. There's an old image from the Indian tradition that I think is the single most useful thing you can carry for anxiety. Imagine a man walking home at dusk. On the path ahead, he sees a snake coiled in the half-light. He freezes. His heart slams. His palms go wet. His legs turn to water. He cannot move or shout. Someone comes along with a lantern and holds it up. And it's a rope, an old coiled piece of rope. Now, here's the part I want you to hold on to. His terror was completely real. The pounding heart was real. The sweat was real. His body did everything it would have done for an actual snake. But there was no snake. There was never a snake. This is what the Gita calls the veil of illusion, the thing that makes us mistake the unreal for the real. And anxiety is one of its favorite tricks. So here is a practice you can use tonight, and it takes about 10 seconds. When the fear grips you, ask one plain question. Is this a snake, or is this a rope? Not to dismiss it. Sometimes it genuinely is a snake. Sometimes there's a real problem needing a real decision, and then you get up and deal with it. But most of the things that wake us at 3 a.m. are ropes. What if they're upset with me? What if I said the wrong thing? What if something is wrong with my health? What if I never get there? hold up the lantern. Look at what's actually on the path. And notice which one the lantern is. It isn't reassurance from other people. That wears off in an hour. The lantern is seeing clearly. This is why the Gita treats knowledge as the great purifier. Light doesn't fight darkness. It simply ends it. When you truly see the rope, you don't have to talk yourself out of the fear. It just lets go of you. Part 4. The anxiety of living someone else's life. Now I want to talk about a particular kind of anxiety that doesn't come from danger at all. It comes from a mismatch, and it lands with special weight on those of us living between two worlds. Krishna says something in the 3rd chapter that I think is one of the most freeing sentences ever written. He says, "It is better to do your own duty imperfectly than to do someone else's duty perfectly." Read that again slowly. Better to do your own thing imperfectly than someone else's thing perfectly. Because here is what nobody tells you. You can be succeeding beautifully and still be deeply anxious if the life you're succeeding at isn't yours. The story of the 2 phone calls. Let me tell you about a young woman. I'll call her Priya. She was born in New Jersey. Her parents came from India in the 1990s with 2 suitcases, a graduate degree, and an enormous, unspoken hope. Priya is 26. She is 2 years into a medical path she chose at 17 because it was in the air she breathed, spoken about at every family gathering, held up in every comparison, quietly assumed at every dinner table. And she is very good at it. She is also anxious in a way she cannot explain to anyone. Not dramatic, just a constant gray pressure, a sense of being slightly underwater, a Sunday night dread that starts on Saturday. There are 2 phone calls in Priya's life. The first one she makes every Sunday to her parents. In it, she is doing well. She is grateful, she is fine, the rotations are going fine. She hears her mother's relief, and she cannot bear to disturb it, because she knows exactly what those 2 suitcases cost, and she has spent her whole life trying to be worth them. The second call is the one she doesn't make. In that one, she says, "I think I want to build things. I think I want to write. I think I've been carrying your dreams so carefully that I never checked whether it was mine." Now, I want to be very careful here, because this is where a lot of advice goes badly wrong. The cheap answer is, follow your heart, forget what they think. That's not the Gita's answer, and honestly, it isn't wise. It ignores something real. Priya's parents' hopes are not oppression. They are love expressed in the only currency migration allows: security. When you've crossed an ocean with nothing, safety is the love language. So, the Gita's answer is more subtle and much kinder to everyone. First, notice that Priya's anxiety is information. It isn't weakness or ingratitude. It's the friction of a life running slightly off its own axis. The Gita would call it the strain of living another's dharma. Second, notice that duty in the Gita is never abandoned. Krishna spends the whole book telling Arjuna to act, not to run away. Priya's responsibilities to her family are real, and she isn't invited to discard them. But, and this is the point, she is invited to stop performing, because the anxiety isn't coming from medicine. It's coming from the gap between the daughter on the Sunday call and the woman who exists. Anxiety loves a gap like that. It is the tax we pay on the distance between our real self and our presented self. And here is what changes when the gap closes, even a little. Priya doesn't have to blow up her life in one dramatic conversation. She only has to stop lying in small ways. She can say one true sentence on that Sunday call. She can spend 2 hours a week building the thing she wants to build,
without calling it a betrayal. She can let her parents meet the actual person, who may, it turns out, be someone they love even more easily than the version they were being shown. If any of this is your life, if you're the one everyone is proud of and quietly exhausted from being, hear this clearly. Honoring your parents and honoring your own nature are not opposites. The Gita never asks you to choose between duty and truth. It asks you to be whole, because a divided person is an anxious person, always, and you were never meant to spend your one life auditioning for it.
Part 5. The Comparison Machine. Closely related and worth naming plainly. Comparison. Anxiety has a favorite food, and it's other people's timelines. Every community has its version of the scoreboard. In some, it's the aunties at a wedding, asking with genuine affection and terrible timing when you're getting married, whether you've bought a house, what the salary is now, what your cousin achieved this year. In others, it's a quieter scoreboard, the neighbor's renovation, the classmate's promotion, the perfectly lit family photographs from a holiday you can't afford. And now, every one of us carries the whole scoreboard in our pocket, glowing, updated hourly. The Gita's answer is the same one it gave Priya. Run your own race. It says that people's own natures differ, and that the path laid out by your own nature is the one you must walk, even if it's less impressive than the path beside you. I find one image especially helpful. We never compare the sun and the moon. The sun does not attempt to shine at midnight. The moon does not compete at noon. Each arrives in its own hour, and nobody thinks the moon is behind schedule. You are not behind. You are simply on your own hour. And a practical note, because this is where lofty advice needs teeth. The Gita cares a great deal about what you feed your mind. It describes how the qualities of the food we take in, and the tradition extends this to all our inputs, shape whether the mind becomes clear and calm, or restless and agitated, or dull and heavy. Your feed is food. 2 hours of scrolling before bed is not a neutral act. It is a meal, and you already know what kind. So make one small change tonight. Keep the phone out of the bedroom, not as a punishment, as a diet.
Part 6. Anxiety lives in the body. Now, something so practical that it surprises people to find it in a spiritual text. Krishna, in the middle of teaching meditation, stops and says this: Yoga is not for the one who eats too much, nor for the one who eats too little, not for the one who sleeps too much, nor for the one who stays awake too long. It is for the one whose eating and sleeping and activity are balanced. For that person, he says, this practice becomes the destroyer of sorrow. I love that this is in there. In the middle of the highest teaching about consciousness, the advice is eat properly and get some sleep. Because the Gita understands something we forget when we're anxious, that we are not floating minds. Anxiety is physical. Ask anyone who has had 4 hours of sleep and 3 coffees whether their worries seemed larger that day. Of course they did. A tired, underfed, overstimulated body produces frightening thoughts the way a wet room produces mold. It's not a character flaw. It's conditions. So before you interrogate your fears at midnight, ask 3 unspiritual questions. When did I last eat properly? When did I last sleep properly? When did I last move my body? Very often, what feels like a crisis of meaning is a crisis of blood sugar and sleep debt. And there's one more piece of body wisdom the tradition hands us, and it's free, and it works in 90 seconds. Slow your breathing down. When you're anxious, your breath goes high and shallow and fast, That's the body's alarm. But the alarm runs both ways. Slow the breath, and the body concludes the danger has passed. Try it right now with me. Breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for a moment. Now let it out, longer than you took it in. 6, 7 counts. Make the out breath the long one. Do that 6 times, and you'll feel your shoulders come down. You have just spoken to your nervous system in the only language it obeys. That is not a metaphor. That's the most concrete anxiety tool in this entire talk, and you carry it everywhere.
Part 7. One Step of Light. Now for what may be the deepest reframe of all, and a story. The story of the lantern on the dark road. A young man had to travel to another village at night, on a road with no lamps at all. He stood at the edge of the darkness, holding a small oil lantern, and he was afraid. He went to an old woman in his village and said, "The journey is 6 miles. This lantern only lights a few feet. How can I possibly walk 6 miles of darkness with 3 feet of light?" She said, "Take your 3 feet of light and walk into it." He said, "But what about the rest of the road?" And she said, "Walk the 3 feet you can see. When you get there, the lantern will show you 3 more. You will never see the whole road. You will always be able to see the next step. And that is all anyone has ever needed." He walked and he arrived. And he never once, at any point in that journey, saw the whole 6 miles. Friends, this is the whole thing. Anxiety is the demand to see the entire road before we take a step. It says, "Guarantee me the outcome. Show me next year. Promise me the diagnosis and the interview and the marriage and the retirement will be fine. And then I'll relax." And because life will never provide that, we stand at the edge of the darkness for years, holding a perfectly good lantern. Krishna gives Arjuna the instruction for this in 5 words. Essentially, remember and do your work. Stay connected inside and take the next action. He does not say, figure out the war. He says, pick up your bow. So when the whole road terrifies you, make the questions smaller. Not, how will I get through this year? But, what is the next honest thing I can do? Make the phone call. Write the first paragraph. Book the appointment. Walk to the end of the street. 3 feet of light is enough. It has always been enough. Part 8. The wisdom that belongs to everyone. I want to pause here and say something to those of you listening who did not grow up with this text. Perhaps you found it recently, perhaps you came for the yoga and stayed for the philosophy, perhaps someone sent you this and you have no cultural connection to it at all, and a small voice is asking whether this wisdom is really addressed to you. It is. You would be in a long and distinguished line. In New England, nearly 2 centuries ago, Ralph Waldo Emerson read the Gita and wrote about it with amazement in his journals. His friend, Henry David Thoreau, took it with him into that famous cabin and read it in the mornings by the pond, and mentions it in Walden. Gandhi called it the book he turned to whenever he was in difficulty. Generations of people, in wildly different lives, have found their own trouble described in it. And that's the tell, isn't it? A text doesn't travel like that by being local. It travels because it's describing something structural about being a human being with a mind. The Gita's own claim is exactly this. Krishna says he is equal toward all beings, that no one is hateful to him and no one is uniquely favored. He says that whatever form, whatever name, whatever tradition people bring their sincerity through, it is he who receives it. I find this a very beautiful thing to be able to say on a channel like this one. If you are Hindu, this is your inheritance, and I hope you feel it as such. If you are not, then think of it as a very old letter about the human mind, sent forward by people who suffered the way you suffer and worked something out. You don't need to convert to anything to slow your breathing down and stop rehearsing a disaster. Anxiety doesn't check your background. Neither does this medicine.
Part 9. Setting down the weight. We come now to the last teaching, and it's the one that finally makes rest possible. There's a promise in the 9th chapter that I think about often. Krishna says that for those who turn to him with an undivided heart, he personally carries what they lack and protects what they already have. Sit with the shape of that, because those are exactly the two shapes of all our anxiety, aren't they? Either will I get what I need, or will I lose what I have? Getting and keeping. Every 3 a.m. spiral is one of those two. And the answer offered is not a strategy, it's a hand. Now, I want to be honest about what this promise does and does not mean, because a shallow reading breaks people's faith. It does not mean nothing hard will ever happen to you. Hard things happen to the most devoted people alive. The Gita is spoken on a battlefield, not in a garden. What it means is that you are not carrying it alone, and that what you truly need will find its way to you. The weather still changes. You are simply no longer walking through it by yourself. And there's an image from the Mahabharata that shows what this surrender actually looks like, because people badly misunderstand the word. When Draupadi was being humiliated in that great hall, she first fought with her own strength, clutching her garment. Then she appealed to the powerful men seated around her, and not one of them moved. And only at the very end did she let go of the cloth, raise her arms, and call out with her whole heart. And it's said that in that instant, the help came. Notice, the help came after she stopped relying only on her own grip. Not before she tried. After. That's the sequence. Surrender is not passivity, and it isn't giving up. It's what you do after your full effort, with the part that was never yours to control. Do everything you can. Then set the outcome down. Those are two different actions, and anxiety comes from trying to do the first one forever. The story of grandmother's morning lamp. Let me finish with something small. There's a flat I want you to picture. Could be in Leicester, could be in Edison, New Jersey, could be in Toronto. It's small. It's kept very clean. It smells faintly of cardamom and of the cold outside. An old woman lives there. She came to this country 40 years ago and never fully stopped feeling like a guest in it. She has buried a husband. She has watched her children become people she is proud of and doesn't entirely understand. She has weathered more genuine hardship than most of us will be asked to. And every single morning, before anyone else is awake, she does the same small thing. She washes, she lights a lamp in the corner of the room. She says a few words she has said every day for 60 years. It takes perhaps 4 minutes. Her granddaughter, who has a therapist and an app and a great deal of information about the nervous system, asked her once, "Aji, doesn't it get boring saying the same thing every day?" And her grandmother said something that the granddaughter is still thinking about. She said, "It's not for the words. It's so that the day knows who is in charge of me." 4 minutes, before the phone, before the news, before the day's demands could get their hands on her. That is exactly what the Gita means by practice. Krishna tells Arjuna plainly that the mind is restless and hard to control. He doesn't pretend otherwise, but that it is tamed by practice and by loosening our grip, not by one heroic effort, by something small, repeated, on the days you feel it and the days you don't. Your version doesn't have to look like hers. Light a candle. Sit by a window with your tea before you open anything with a screen. Say one line of gratitude. Take those 6 long breaths. 4 minutes before the world starts talking. You are not trying to have a profound experience. You are establishing who is in charge of your day. So let me gather this into what you can actually carry with you. Anxiety is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's what happens when a mind grips at what it was never given to hold. Arjuna's hands shook too. You have your effort. You do not have the outcome. Pour yourself into the first and set down the second, and you'll find you have more strength for the work, not less. The problem was never the frightening thought, it's the rehearsing. So when you catch yourself circling, don't fight. Bring your mind gently home, the way you take a child's hand, as many times as it takes.
Hold up the lantern and ask, is this a snake or is this a rope? Most of them are ropes. Check whether the life you're anxious in is actually yours. Doing your own thing imperfectly beats performing someone else's perfectly, and closing the gap between who you are and who you present is one of the great cures for dread. Stop watching other people's timelines. The moon isn't running late. Feed and sleep and move your body, because frightening thoughts grow best in an exhausted one. And when the alarm rises, slow the out-breath 6 times. You will never see the whole road. Take the 3 feet of light you have and walk into it. Do everything you can, and then, with what's left, let go of the cloth. And tomorrow morning, before the world starts talking, take your 4 minutes. That's how the day learns who is in charge of you. One last thing before you go. The Gita lists the qualities of a person who has become steady. And do you know what stands first on that list? Fearlessness. Before charity, before discipline, before study, fearlessness comes first. As if to say, this is the ground everything good is built on. You are allowed to put the fear down. Not all of it, not today, but some of it, and now. Take care of yourself. Be gentle with yourself. You're carrying more than anyone can see. Stay calm and breathe. Thank you for being here.